Morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Doug Brunke from Global Chamber Headquarters in Scottsdale, Arizona. We have an audience here, we have an audience around the world, and we really appreciate you learning more about something that's really important, the Canton Fair. It's been very successful over the years. Not as many people in the United States and around the world know about the significance of how it can impact positively your business. And so we've got experts who have gone to the Canton Fair from China, who have gone to the Canton Fair from the US and from around the world, and will be able to speak to us about the experience that they had quite realistically. And then if you're looking to go or you're inspired to go, we'll have a step-by-step next step of how to go about doing that. So our first speaker today, we're very honored to have Miss Tracy Mai. She's the Senior Manager, International VIP Service of the China Foreign Trade Center Group. She's in China, so it is quite late there. So we appreciate, Tracy, your calling in today, and we really appreciate you sharing more about the Canton Fair. We're gonna hear from you, we're gonna watch a video, and then we'll have Q&A. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, thank you. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say also good morning, good evening, but now actually in Guangzhou it's midnight, almost midnight, because the time difference is 15 hours. Anyway, welcome. It is my great pleasure to be here and join you at the Canton Fair Promotion Conference in the beautiful city of Venice. I would like to express my sincere thanks for all the great support of the Global Chamber and a warm welcome to all of you, and also our expert speakers from the States, okay? Thank you for your attention and also your support to the Canton Fair. Canton Fair has been driving trade cooperation between China and the rest of the world since its very first session in the year of 1957. It has established trade ties with more than 215 countries and regions in the world, playing a very crucial role for China to become a big trading nation. Canton Fair is also China's largest platform for international trade, which is both comprehensive and specialized. Each session of the fair is divided into 3 phases and covers an exhibition area of around 1.2 million square meters. Its exhibition themes include 16 industries, which are displayed in about 51 specialized sections. In every section, Canton Fair also have 25,000 exhibitors from home and abroad, and nearly 200,000 international buyers, which also include about 10,000 buyers from the United States. As China's #1 fair, we provide a wide range of Chinese products with good quality and competitive price. Canton Fair is also a global trading platform for secure and effective transactions. Only those companies that meet very strict standards can exhibit at the Canton Fair. Canton Fair also set up an agency, a very special agency, to deal with IPR and trade disputes, providing security guarantee for both buyers and exhibitors. In a nutshell, Canton Fair presents boundless opportunities. No matter you want to import Chinese products or export your products to the Chinese markets or other countries, Canton Fair is always a must choice. Well, with regard to the sourcing demands of the Finnish buyers, we'd like to also highlight some exhibition sections, such as electrical and electric products, spare parts and building materials, food and medical products. You can find these products, especially electric and spare parts and building products, in phase 1. That is from April 15 to 19. And you can also find food, staff, and medical products in phase 3, which is from May the 1st and to 4th. top Chinese brands such as Haier, Media, Gree. They are all regular exhibitors of the Canton Fairs. And industrial bases of these products are mainly located in the provinces like Guangdong province, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu provinces. These companies will also launch their latest products and at the coming Canton Fair in April. Last but not least, thank you very much for coming today, and would like to see you at the Canton Fair. And if you want to share more information, if you want to inquire more information from the Canton Fair, and you can also send us email, or you can use some Facebook. We have our Facebook account, and you can also send us questions on there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. I think we're going to now, you're going to hang on for a second. We're going to play the video, and then you'll be available for questions. I'd also like to recognize Ms. Lucia Lee, who is working with you. She is the VIP Service Group, China Foreign Trade Center Group, same as you. So we're going to get the video going.
Yes, Lucinda will be here and answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Here we go with the video. Hold on, please.
When the spring rain wets the earth and the autumn sun warms the 5 continents, something big happens in China. In every spring and autumn, more than 200,000 buyers from all over the world gather at the China Import and Export Fair, or Canton Fair, the most reputable trade fair in China, to start a fascinating journey to friendship and trade.
Guangzhou 会是中国政府1957年创办的，50多年来，始终保持着旺盛的生命力和蓬勃的发展势头，成为中国历史最久、规模最大、声誉最佳的国际著名展会。广交会是中国对外开放的窗口，是中国对外开放的缩影，是中国对外开放的标志。
Canton Fair, jointly hosted by the Ministry of Commerce and the People's Government of Guangdong Province, and organized by the China Foreign Trade Center, is held twice a year in spring and autumn in Guangzhou, China. Canton Fair has a total exhibition area of 1.18 million square meters and over 60,000 stands. It takes the lead among the world's yearly exhibitions in terms of scale. For over half a century, Canton Fair has never been stopped, even in the turbulent 1960s, or during the SARS epidemic that frightened the world, or during the global financial crisis. Canton Fair plays a significant role in expanding China's opening up and promoting China's foreign trade development. Through Canton Fair, China has strengthened bilateral economic and trade communications with over 210 countries and regions in the world. Since China joined the WTO, Canton Fair has shown even more vigorous vitality and stronger development momentum, promoting gradual transformation and upgrading China's foreign trade.
Ich bin Friedrich Schmidt und komme aus Deutschland. Hier findet man immer eine Überraschung. Als ich vor einigen Jahren zum ersten Mal hierher kam, war ich sofort von dieser Messe fasziniert.
The magnificent Canton Fair complex is a modern, smart, user-friendly, and ecological architectural complex with advanced facilities and complete functions. It is equally famous as the world-class exhibition centers in Hanover and Frankfurt of Germany, and Milan of Italy. The Spring Canton Fair is held from April 15th to May 5th, and the Autumn Fair is held from October 15th to November 4th, each divided into 3 phases. Phase 1 of Canton Fair mainly shows electromechanical, lighting, hardware, and building material products. Phase 2 mainly shows light industrial crafts, gifts, and home decorations. Phase 3 mainly shows textiles, garments, food, livestock, medicines, and healthcare products. Canton Fair gathers more than 24,000 excellent exhibitors from all over the world and displays more than 150,000 varieties of products. Every session, a great number of new products appear at Canton Fair, and priority is given to high-tech and low-carbon environmentally friendly products, making Canton Fair a trendsetter in the world. Canton Fair gathers the best buyers from all over the world. In recent years, Canton Fair has been making greater efforts to invite buyers from emerging markets, especially from countries along the One Belt and One Road. As a result, there's been a steady increase in the number of buyers from Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Nearly 100 companies among the world's top 250 retailers, released in 2014, have attended Canton Fair. The top 10 retailers, including Walmart, Carrefour, and Tesco, have all set up purchasing offices at the multinational sourcing service. Canton Fair has a brand exhibition area, which encourages and helps companies and products with proprietary brands, high technical content, and high added value to take part in the exhibition. In the official website of the 118th Canton Fair, a brand window section is introduced to provide global buyers with information on the brand enterprises and their quality products at Canton Fair. Buyers can have a glance at the first-rate products in China here. In 2014, in order to meet international market demand, the exhibition section configuration was optimized by adding 3 new themes, i.e. outdoor spa equipment, new energy, and pet products. A layout consisting of 16 major product categories and 50 exhibition sections is formed.
Auf jeder Messe kann ich viele neue Produkte finden, jedes Mal neue Entdeckungen machen. Es ist wirklich ein wunderbarer Ort.
In order to further promote balance of import and export trade and to increase imports, the International Pavilion was set up at Canton Fair in 2007, which provides opportunities for overseas enterprises to explore the Chinese market and for domestic enterprises to purchase overseas products. Currently, the International Pavilion consists of 6 specialized themes, which are in Phase 1 and Phase 3, with an exhibition area of 20,000 square meters. More than 8,000 high-quality overseas enterprises from over 100 countries and regions have successfully entered the Chinese market to achieve mutual benefits, win-win results, and common development together with Chinese enterprises. Canton Fair has always paid great attention to product quality and safety, and all exhibitors must undergo qualification assessment and strict selection. 80% of exhibitors should have their export volume reaching a set standard, and 5% of exhibitors shall be different every year. Canton Fair encourages low-carbon, environmentally friendly, and energy-saving products to take part in the fair, and works closely with quality supervision authorities in various regions on quality supervision. Canton Fair is devoted to maintaining its reputation and brand image of Made in China and China's #1 fair. Canton Fair is a role model among Chinese trade fairs in terms of intellectual property protection. Canton Fair has offices for handling disputes and complaints with respect to intellectual property, product quality and safety, and trading, so as to provide customers with information in arbitration to handle trade disputes and complaints in a timely manner, and build a fair and just trading environment. To encourage innovation, Canton Fair has established the Product Design and Trade Promotion Center, which invites overseas designers, color strategy experts, and authoritative specialists in trend analysis to interact with exhibitors, thereby effectively broadening the international design vision of domestic export enterprises and advancing the independent innovation process. Up to the 117th Canton Fair, a total of 522 design companies from 15 countries and regions, including France, Greece, Italy, and the Netherlands, have participated in PDC activities. The cumulative total of the net design display area is 7,273 square meters, and a total of 257 theme activities have been held. China Foreign Trade Center, the organizer of Canton Fair, provides buyers and exhibitors with thoughtful services at any time. It strives to build a smart Canton Fair from various perspectives, such as buyer invitation, exhibition organization, e-commerce, and on-site services. In 2014, the Canton Fair community was built on Facebook, the international social media platform, with hundreds of thousands of fans. The internet promotion campaign has been realized globally. Cross-industry cooperation has been carried out with China Southern Airlines, Emirates Airlines, and international hotel groups. Various activities, such as advertisement reward for new buyers, media resource exchange program, and iShare, have been carried out to effectively improve the promotion efficiency. Online system for operation of the International Pavilion and evaluation system for brand section have been developed. The official website of Canton Fair has been optimized and adjusted to deliver the latest Canton Fair information to buyers through multiple channels. The online leasing function of Easy Exhibitor platform has also been further improved, with 11 newly added convenient online services. The online leasing function has also been launched in the WeChat account, and the location navigation interaction service has been introduced. Various banks are ready to provide customers with convenient financial services. Inside the exhibition venue, there are restaurants offering all kinds of cuisine from all over the world.
Auf der Messe findet man überall Freunde, Trendinformationen und vielfältige Geschäftschancen. Vielleicht liegt gerade darin die Anziehungskraft dieser Messe. Man kommt mit Erwartungen und fährt mit Geschäftserfolg nach Hause.
Canton Fair allows customers to work and rest in a quiet, tree-lined environment. The Westin Paju is a 5-star hotel in the Canton Fair complex. The aerial gallery bridge in the hotel provides access to areas A, B, and C of the Canton Fair complex, and the rooms offer a nice view of the beautiful Pearl River and Guangzhou.
Auf der Messe kann man mit den bedeutendsten chinesischen Außenhandelsunternehmen Kontakt aufnehmen und Produkte von bester Qualität kaufen. Wenn Sie nach Hause fahren, bringen Sie nicht nur Bestellungen heim, sondern auch wertvolle Freundschaften.
Li Wan has never been absent from Canton Fair since its establishment and is a witness to its birth and growth.
每一届都不知道好像只能我找得到。
When you ask to a French guy or Spanish buyer or anyone in Europe, what is this after the Canton Fair? What is the second fair in the world? Nobody knows. It's not only that it's the biggest fair; it's the only last big fair, and this is very good that that we don't have to do 20 fairs because 20 fairs every 6 months it's very difficult to attend. One big one is much more convenient for us. I think that is the success. Not only sourcing from China, that's the last few years, but also foreign companies and some ideas too.
One day, I start the business and I still wake up. But don't like the business. I have been attracted of all the other things, culture, the history, the folk, the people.
广交会创办以来，在世界人民心中是友谊的纽带、贸易的桥梁。我们欢迎世界各地的朋友来广交会做客。
Wow, that's inspiring. That makes you want to go immediately. So
hello everyone, Will Mitchell from Startup Bros here. We're going going to be going to the Canton Fair in just a few weeks here with our event called the...
Sorry about that. I think I got the next video on the Canton Fair. So we're back here in Scottsdale, and we've got some questions coming in. If you have any questions at any time during this seminar, please ask them in the Q&A box. And I'm wondering if anybody here has any questions. And if you've got some, come on up. One question that we have coming in relates to the trend that you see at Canton Fair. You know, over the last 5 years, how would you characterize the changes and the differences in focus for the Spring Canton Fair?
Okay, can you hear me now, Doc?
I can, yes.
Yes, actually, Canton Fair is a comprehensive fair. We have different type of products of different from different industry, and now we focus on the specialization of each kind of products. So in the recent 5 years, as you mentioned, we have quite strictly followed the trend of each industry, and we also have the Canton Fair Forum. We will discuss the latest trend of different industry, and we will also invite the entrepreneurs, the Chinese entrepreneurs, to showcase their latest products. And some buyers from the European countries, the buyers, they told me that their old suppliers and the new one they saw on the Canton Fair, they really have the latest products. So I believe that the Canton Fair do follow the trends of each industry.
That sounds good. One of the trends, and this relates to another question on intellectual property. It was interesting to hear that it sounds like there's a place there where people can go if they have any questions about intellectual property. That's certainly of concern for a lot of companies from around the world in any country that they do business. Could you talk a little bit more about how that works?
Excuse me, can you repeat your question? You want me to talk about the electrical products, the industry? You mean the trend of this industry, right?
Sorry, it was more around intellectual property. So the protection of intellectual property for companies coming in. Presumably that's increased, right? The awareness of that and the protection. And in the video, it talks about a special area of the Canton Fair where people can go. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh yes, the exhibition hall of the Canton Fair, we have 3 areas, area A, B, and C, and there is a station in each area, the office there. We deal with the IPR and trade dispute issues. So if you have any questions, you can follow the mark in the exhibition hall and go to the office, and you can settle down the question or settle down all your problems.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good. We do have a question from the audience. Could you introduce yourself and then ask your question?
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm a general contractor looking to purchase some building materials, and I just had a question on for small businesses that want to come there and purchase things like shipping containers of material. Do we need any special sort of trade licensing to do it, or can we just simply go there and purchase materials?
Well, actually, before you come to the Canton Fair, you can search on our official website. We actually have a list. You can search by choosing your industry, and there is a complete list of the exhibitors and their information, including the address and their name and the products they were going to exhibit in the coming Canton Fair. And they also leave their contact number. Maybe before you come to the fair, you can contact them and visit their factory afterwards.
Okay, perfect.
And also, I think your question was related to actually purchasing things,
yes, right? Whether or not we could, and I'm just curious, like, would I just contact them and they would tell us whether or not we could purchase things from them and get them shipped to the U.S., or is there trade licensing that's needed to ship things?
Well, actually, most exhibitors, they will leave their number, but that depends whether they will trade with you just by phone or just you need face-to-face negotiation. That depends. But they will leave their way of contact on our website, so you can check.
Okay. Yeah, and I think both Todd, who's our next speaker, and Vladi both have very extensive experience in that area. So
okay.
Perfect. As well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good answer, and really appreciate that. One more question. You know, the trade issues between China and other countries, particularly the U.S. right now, is a little tricky. And so, how do you think the tariff conversations and the tariff updates will be impacting the Canton Fair, if at all? Are you seeing any changes, an increase of people, a decrease of people, different topics that will be covered? How do you expect it will be addressed?
Well, actually, now the issue is still going on, and it's quite maybe it's a little bit sensitive. The issue, and the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, they will release the latest information of the trade and any trade dispute, not only between the China and US, but also with the other countries. But from my side, I'm confident that in Canton Fair we still do business. We still make the deal. So I don't think that will affect, especially in Canton Fair. That's what I believe.
Okay, well, that sounds good. And Lucia, we really appreciate you taking these questions. We do have one more question again coming in off the visitors that are watching internationally. Here's the question. I'd love to know more about organizations' interest and appetite on sustainability initiatives and embedding social and environmental impact into the way they do business. So maybe perhaps the question might be, are sustainability and green products and that issue, do you see an increase there at the Canton Fair? And are there places for somebody who's interested in sustainability and green products, are there places for them to go, particular places to go at the Canton Fair?
Well, actually, talking about the sustainability, the Canton Fair always lay an emphasis in almost each part of the fair organization. We use the what you call the green products, the environmental friendly the products. We exhibit environmental friendly products, and we also use the the environmental friendly material to build up our stands. So we make, of course, there will be requirement for each exhibitors. What they exhibit here, the products should meet some requirements. Of course, they meet the green products quality, I think.
Okay, very good. Well, we want to thank you, Lucia Lee, with their international VIP service. We'd like to thank your partner, Ms. Tracy Mai. In terms of next steps, I know it's late there and you're about to leave and we're going to switch to the next speaker, but if anyone needs to get a hold of you and would like to contact you, how do they best do that?
Well, maybe if there is any other question during these events, maybe Doc, you can collect them for me and then send them to me, and I will answer them afterwards. And if you have still any other questions, you can visit our official website for answers. If not, maybe you can email me. Doc, you can give my email address to the guest.
Happy to. Thank you very much. And you mentioned a Facebook page, Canton Fair Online was the address. So whether it's the website or the Facebook page or directly contacting you through us, we're happy to do that. So thank you for staying so late. Be safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer and to do the other things for you. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, we're going to be switching over, I believe, to Colorado. Todd Cornell, he's business consultant at Culture 668. Todd actually has spoken at a Canton Fair event that we did last year, and he was so inspired by the conversation that he actually then went to the fall Canton Fair. He's been multiple times in multiple years, and he lived in China for over 10 years. You'll be able to tell that he, over 20 years. Oh my goodness, okay. So twice as amazing as what we thought. But Todd is remarkable in his abilities, and so we've asked him to speak today Canton Fair and how to go about some of the practical doing business at the Canton Fair and in China in general, because he's so good at it. Todd, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Doug. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it. 感谢光教会的支持和协助. So China offers a lot of opportunities. I managed some businesses in China, was strongly involved with a lot of manufacturing and management. And there's a lot of potential in China. So we can move on. Yes, and relations are the important thing in China. That's the one thing that you want to put as the top of your what you need to take care of. So getting the most out of the Canton Fair, first of all, attending the fair with somebody who can bridge the cultural linguistic gap, very important. No self, no other, that's a really important thing to remember. We need to know our own situation. We also need to understand the person that we're interacting with and the culture that we're interacting with. So that's the first thing. Be sure that you're working with somebody who strictly understands you very, very well and who also understands Chinese culture and is able to bridge those two cultures in a good way where they're able to be aware of some of the idiosyncrasies and differences that are going on. Visiting manufacturer rep booths is the one thing that you're going to do at the Canton Fair. There's a lot of them, and you can see me here visiting a rep booth. The people are friendly, they are very helpful, they'll answer your questions. But one thing that's important to know is, are you a manufacturer or a trade company? And sometimes that can be some of the challenges because they want you to think they're a manufacturer, but they may be a trade company. And they, in their own way, will feel that that's okay to say that because they represent the manufacturer. So it's not that they're not being honest, it's just a different perspective. So what's the mode of qualification? One thing is that the Canton Fair has done a lot of work in qualifying a lot of these vendors and these factories, and that's great, but we can't completely depend on it because there's thousands and thousands of vendors there, and so we need to also do our due diligence at making sure that we're qualifying those manufacturers and factories ourselves. So one thing is that if you're going to attend the Canton Fair, what's the difference between attending the Canton Fair or just visiting manufacturing hubs? Manufacturing hubs are places, cities like Quanzhou, where they do a lot of bags, or Shenzhen, where you have a lot of technology. There's a lot of different manufacturing hubs, which are sort of cities where a lot of certain industries tend to build up factories. So if you're attending the Canton Fair, your product is sourceable at the Canton Fair, for one, because you'll have a lot of opportunity to see a lot of different manufacturers of whatever product that you're looking for. And at the same time, it gives a great opportunity to look at other product ideas, to see what things are going on in other parts of the world. One thing that I found really, really fascinating, I was looking for some products for a client, and seeing all of the different little added things that are actually not a part of that factory. There are other factories that are creating things that can work together really well with the product that you're working on. So that's another thing that's really good about the Canton Fair, is it's a great place to do some brainstorming on how to improve or make your product even better. And so if you're looking at just doing a specific product manufacturing project, then you might want to just consider visiting the manufacturing hubs, because that'll take you more direct to the factories, manufacturers who are doing exactly what it is that you're looking to have made. It may be more specific in the requirements, and so it's easier to just find a factory and just bypass a lot of that other creative stuff. If you already have everything set, you know what you want, then you might also want to look at a factory. But that's not to say that going to the Canton Fair won't also support you in finding more factories or more manufacturers. And I think it also depends on how common your product is at the Canton Fair. If it's something that's not so common, then it may be easier just to go direct to manufacturers. So one of the important things in doing business with Chinese factories is the relationship. And that's actually the most important thing of getting anything done successfully in China. So it's important that you do visit the factory. You want to tour the factory, share a meal. Most of the time, if there's a real interest in the Chinese factory, they're going to take you out for a meal. That's very standard. That's just the way they are. That's their cultural way of opening the door for potential and opportunity. And that's a way to establish positive relationships. You want to talk about what your interests are, what you're thinking of doing, giving them a sense that you're interested in working with them. And then you want to continue the discussions and be patient, because sometimes things do tend to take a little bit longer than we expect. So know self, know others. This is a really important thing in what I do. In China, culture eats everything for breakfast, essentially. So we don't want to rely on our own basic cultural understanding of how we do business. If we want to be successful in China, we want to understand the way the Chinese do business. So we need to learn from China in order to be successful in China. And that's something that comes out of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And he talks about the importance of understanding those that we're interacting with. And when we're going to China, we're interacting with a very different culture. And so we need to put some effort into learning about that culture, learning about their habits, learning about their values and their ideals if we want to be successful. So Chinese thought is influenced by over 4,000 years of classical literature and classical philosophies. And this is something that we don't really understand, because as non-Chinese, we can't really understand the vast amount of knowledge and practices that they have that are in their language when they're speaking. Every day they use idioms that go back 2,000 to 3,000 years. They use expressions that express ideals and values that are very different from the ones that we hold. So the foundation of Chinese culture is based on 3 philosophies, and those 3 philosophies are based on harmony, which is very much a part of Chinese culture. And that is what the Chinese are trying to create and trying to establish in that relationship. You notice that behind Miss Lee, that the background said extending friendship and creating relationships. And this is the whole aspect of Chinese culture. Chinese culture is made up through the 3 philosophies, the foundation of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. And these 3 philosophies share the common thread of harmony. So going forward, there's 2 icons that I'd like you to pay attention to. One is the icon of Sun Tzu with strategy and diligence, and the other is the yin yang, which represents harmony and balance. So 3 things to consider: harmony, nothing is for sure, and relationship trumps all. So in harmony and in nothing for sure, we see that those are the harmony icons. So that means that in this, there is something going on there. There's a relationship going on in ways that is going to be very different from what we understand. Yin yang is something that shapes the Chinese culture, and that's through the coming together of differing forces or differing ideals. Conflict is something that we want to avoid, and so we notice that that's a strategy. Also, we want to be strategic in our interactions, because that strategy is important for helping us to be able to understand what's going on and be prepared for what might come. Practicing flexibility is also a strategy. Relationships are a strategy. And establishing a support system to achieve goals is also a strategy. Friendship is relationship, and that's also a strategy, but it's also an aspect of the harmony. So interpersonal relations are one of the most important things that we want to consider when we're interacting with Chinese companies and Chinese individuals for that matter. So that strong interpersonal relationship is the same as gold. It's the best currency that you can have in being successful with your distributors, with your factories, and with the people that you're interacting with. So we want to nurture friendly and supportive relationships, and this is a strategy. And so we never want to be difficult. We never want to use being difficult as a strategy. I worked for a company in a joint venture back in the 80s in Beijing. And they had an interesting way of doing things. And one of those was that one person was difficult and the other person was easy to get along with from the American side. And it was an interesting twist, but I come to find that being difficult really doesn't achieve anything in interacting with China. It actually sometimes can exacerbate the challenges and the difficulties. So there's an expression in Chinese, 惜墨如金, which means that precious ink is as valuable as gold. That expression is also used to refer to relationships, whereas the relationships are the ink. And when we have those precious relationships, that's as valuable as gold. So one thing we want to do as a strategy is to meet the company owner. We need to meet the company owner. If you don't meet the company owner and you're interacting with a service agent or with a customer service person, or even maybe somebody who calls themselves a manager, you will still have a hard time getting done what needs to be done. From your perspective, it's important to have that relationship with the boss. Nothing is for sure. There's a lot of things in China that in a way it's a harmony thing. They'll say things to want to meet your expectations, but sometimes it's not realistic and it doesn't happen the way that maybe you're expecting it to happen. So we want to be vigilant and protect ourselves, and that's a strategy. There's an expression in Chinese, don't have a heart that desires to harm others, but have a heart that protects yourself from others. And this is an expression that children in China understand, and it's something that is very much a part of the Chinese mentality and makeup. And we also want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to protect ourselves. And that's not to say protect from a very harmful way, but just from a business perspective, a personal relationship perspective. The vigilance is very important, and we need to know that that's what the Chinese themselves are also practicing. Not maybe doing it knowingly, it's already become such an innate habit that they do it without even thinking about it. So don't be an open book, which is a strategy. We don't want to talk a lot. As Americans, if you're American, we tend to like to open up to people. We feel like we can share a lot. We talk a lot about things because we feel like we're establishing a relationship or a connection. But that sort of a thing doesn't necessarily work in China, and it isn't also in your best interest. Any information that's shared can also be used however they feel the need. And so we want to get as much information as we can, but we also only want to give as much as is necessary. Contracts in China should not be regarded as a contract here. It's something where the relationship really is your contract. If you have a good relationship with a factory and a manufacturer, that is what's going to maintain the expectations. But things change, and so being flexible, being able to work through challenges. If you want to take somebody to a legal situation, that might actually ruin the relationship. If you're wanting to maintain a relationship, it's really best in just retaining that relationship and maintaining through the relationship with working through things, being flexible, finding a balance, finding ways to work things out, working in the best interest of both parties and finding that harmonious relationship. So feel free to download my copy of Culturally Correct Chinese. It'll give you a little bit of information about some of the Chinese phrases and sayings that you can use when you're there to just sort of help open up the relationship, make people feel comfortable, let them realize that you're interested in their culture, you appreciate their culture. And here's some ways that I can help you. I'll be happy to accompany you in China, work with you as an interpreter, help you with negotiations and business etiquette training, and also keynote speaking if you're interested in that too. Thank you. 谢谢.
Before we get to questions, I'd like to highlight the understatement of the year in Todd Cornell's bio that's on the event listing. It says, indeed, he has lived over 20 years in Chinese-speaking countries, and here's the understatement, and possesses above average China cross-cultural skills. And so that's very humble of you, and I think, as we've just seen, very knowledgeable. And the fact that you jumped in right after last year's event like this, and I think some of the pictures that you showed were from last year even. You have a great way of integrating yourself in. I think part of what makes anyone successful in another country and is a love of the culture, or certainly understanding. Could you talk a little bit about that aspect? You know, there's companies that may not necessarily love any culture, totally not really understand it like you do. How do they get motivated to be successful? Is it primarily going over with someone like yourself who is deeply knowledgeable and understands those nuances? How does someone who doesn't embrace any culture as you do and be successful? What's your suggestion?
Well, Doug, I think you understand that because you've sort of experienced that on your own in Japan. But I think that having that openness to be able to recognize that the world is a really beautiful place. There's a lot of color and a lot of variation, and culture is just like a flower garden. You've got different flowers and each one is equally beautiful. But if we're coming from a perspective that this is all I know and I think that this is the right way, then that's probably not the best approach to go into China or any culture for that matter. We need to go in with the attitude that, yeah, things are different. I may get frustrated. I probably will feel uncomfortable, but that's all a part of the learning process. So I think that just being open and willing to recognize that there is a learning process, there is a learning curve, and not to look at things that we see as being different as being bad.
Gotcha. In terms of just kind of managing the time involved with the Canton Fair, how much research needs to be done ahead of time when you're jumping in maybe for the first time? And then should somebody who's going over start to plan some visits, or do those visits happen while you're at the fair? How does that evolve? How do you optimize the time over there and prepare?
Well, that's an interesting question, and Vladdy might actually have more information to share on that. But what I've seen is that any information, if you try and actually go on to their listings and their directories, that's like a can of worms. You're gonna really have a hard time, I think, finding a lot of things, of connections that way. It may give you an idea of who's gonna be there, what's gonna be going on, but one of the challenges that I can think of is that you send an email and it sort of gets lost, or the interaction, you don't know the language quality of the person that you're interacting with, and so English going back and forth, Google Translate Chinese going back and forth, whatever, it can create some undue challenges and frustrations. Going is exhausting, to say the least, but going and walking and visiting and looking around is really very, I don't know, I was enlightened. I just thought, wow, this is really amazing, the stuff that you can find. And I think a lot of it too is what I mentioned about the brainstorming aspect, is just walking around in the halls and looking at what other people are doing and seeing other things of the similar product that I'm looking for, but maybe a product that's being sold in Europe or in Asia or somewhere else that has an interesting twist to it that I'd never thought of. So I think it's good to start, but maybe just going is a good thing too. I don't know. Hopefully Vladdy can add more to that.
Okay, so definitely go, but then, you know, conceivably on the first trip over, they could be visiting facilities, right? And or is that too much to ask on the first trip over? Factories,
Manufacturers? Oh, definitely. You don't want to go to China and not visit factories. That's the most important thing to do. That's more important. That's the follow through. You meet that manufacturer at the chamber. I've got this big thing, global chamber staring at me at the Canton Fair. And you want to walk away with factory visits. You really do. You want to actually put more time into your trip, add a few extra days so that you can go and visit factories. Because if you just go to the Canton Fair, you talk with a manufacturer and you come back to your home, you really haven't achieved much in my mind. You've got a contact, but you have no idea who they are. You have no idea what's going on. There's all sorts of stories. You know, oh, I met this manufacturer. They said they were a manufacturer. They took me to a factory, and then I met another manufacturer. They took me to the same factory. And so it's like, that's the big thing. Are you a manufacturer? Are you a trade company?
Gotcha. So the Spring Fair has 3 segments of 5 days each. So if you're going over for instance, one of the segments, how much other time should you allot for those factory visits?
That's hard to say. Unfortunately, you know, we go back to the nothing is for sure aspect of China. When we're in China, we have to deal in China's time. If it's possible to give yourself 2 days, maybe that would be a good way to do it. We were able to arrange a couple factory visits, and luckily they were in Canton, in Guangzhou. But if you're going to be doing factory visits in Beijing or, you know, in other places, you're going to have to take into consideration travel time, arrangements, whatnot, because those are sort of arrangements on the fly. Of course, the bullet trains are really very fast. It's pretty amazing. You can get from Shenzhen to Guangzhou in a half hour, which it used to take about 2 or 3. So getting around now in China is much more, is much easier than it used to be. So that's the positive thing. But just making those arrangements, you want to meet the boss. Do you have the people who are able to get you in to meet the boss is another question too. Or are you really meeting the boss? Are you able to tell if this is the boss? There's a lot of things there to take into consideration.
Okay. Are the people on the floor for representing these companies, sometimes does the boss attend the fair? And how does that work? Or are they largely business development people like it is here in the US, or maybe you'd find it a trade fair in Europe? Are those representatives of the company, and then how would they then make the visit to the company? How does that work?
I think that just depends on the company. You've got big companies, the boss is there. You've got small companies, the boss is there. And then you have companies where it's just representatives. And those representatives are going to be different level representatives. They may be managers, they may be customer service agents. So each one is going to be a little bit different.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've got a white paper. Is that what you were showing us there that we can download, and we have access to it?
That's a cultural white paper. That's just talking about some of the basic aspects of interacting with the Chinese, some basic phrases that you can learn to say, and some cultural practices.
Okay, very good. So you want to just again tell people how to get a hold of you, and then if anybody's watching and misses this, you'll let us know. Send an email to info@globalchamber.org, and we'll connect you to Todd. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Todd?
Through email, Todd, Todd, culture, CULTUR, 668.com. And the 668 comes from a Chinese usage of numbers. The Chinese use numbers to express different concepts. And so 6 is the idea of a road, and 8 is the idea of getting rich. And so 66 is like roads, or lots of roads, or all roads, and leads to riches. So 668 Lulu Fa.
Fantastic. It also makes it very easy to search online. So culture with the E, 668, very easy to find.
Right, just got to drop the E.
Exactly right. So thank you very much, Todd. Really appreciate it. You're amazing. And I presume that you've got your eye on the fair, either the spring fair or the fall fair.
I do. I'm talking with some people now about going over, and I'm more than happy to meet you over there, meet anybody over there who's interested in some support and assistance.
And Global Chamber's working on a trade mission in the fall as well. So thank you very much for your time, and we're going to move on to the next speaker. Thank you again, Todd.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Cesar.
Our next speaker is a fellow whose company has been going to the Canton Fair for many years. Robert Ross, VP of Operations of Chamberlain Marketing Group. They have marketing and gifts that they've been getting from the Canton Fair. Robert, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, Doug?
Oh, we can hear you actually perfectly. Absolutely.
All right, perfect, perfect. Thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Oh, no worries. You're calling in from Taylor, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so right all the way across the world here in Michigan. And so tell us more about your experience with Canton Fair. It's a good experience.
Oh, it's a terrific experience. I'd like to just, comment on some of the things that Todd said in his presentation. I mean, a lot of his information was very helpful and spot on. I think that, just knowing the culture and kind of knowing what you're getting into prior to, getting on that 16 to 17-hour flight from here to, China is something that's very important. I've actually been traveling to China since about 1999. And I've had, great success in purchasing directly from a number of factories that have basically exhibited at the Canton Fair, probably in excess of $100 million over the past 17 to 18 years. Items from automotive portfolio manuals that hold the glove box portfolio to several different OEM parts that we basically developed from scratch, to different surprise and delights where if you bought an automotive vehicle, you received something in the mail for purchasing it, whether it be a set of director chairs that we did for Ford Motor Company, or a set of 2 Yeti-style coffee mugs, or something of that nature, to basic, normal promotional projects, whether it's plush or Energizer or different items that we've done over the years. A number of the factories that we work with have been on display at the Canton Fair. And what I've noticed that's been the most important thing over the years at the Canton Fair is the Canton, Fair, basically the people that developed the Canton Fair and the commerce over in China have made it much more easy for international travel over there. I would say over the past 10 years, just the infrastructure of being able to get to the fair and being able to coordinate yourself and get through the fair has been unbelievable. I mean, just the new location, the new facility, the new exhibition center is much more organized. It's on 2 floors as opposed to probably, 8 or 10 floors, which was the last one was on, in 3 or 4 different halls. And just the organization of it, it's much more manageable than it was in the past.
Very good.
So I don't know if there were questions, Doug. I mean, I'm usually pretty good about, answering questions. I'd rather than me just talk for 10 minutes, if people had questions in regards to my experience over there, I'd have no problem answering questions, and that might be the best way if anyone has any questions.
Okay. I don't see any questions coming in. Are there any questions for Robert here? You said you've been going over for over 20 years. What was your first trip?
My first trip was in 1998 was my first trip. I was, I was 28 years old, and I went over there as the very young American, and fortunately we were part of the International Global trade group, which was set up with like 9 or 10 different countries from around the country, and there were a lot of experienced importers at the time that I kind of, went underneath their wing, probably different people from Italy and also from France and from Belgium that are all great sourcing individuals, and I was able to walk the show with them and meet a lot of the factory owners that they've worked with and sourced products with for several years. And I was, very fortunate with the people that I was able to tour and visit the Canton Fair with.
Okay. How would you comment on a couple of the things that Todd talked about, which was, visiting the factory and talking to management, having dinner with them and making the connection there? And then what about representation and, how to basically, either bring someone with you or have someone over there that you know and trust or is kind of on your dime?
I would agree completely with that in regards to, meeting the factory owner and talking to the factory owner and dealing with the factory owner. I think it's just like doing business in the United States where people buy from people that they like and people that they can associate with. And if you have even though you might speak a different language, most factory owners, I think, have, very good, they say that they can't speak English very well, but they can speak English very well. Most of the factory owners, I would say, are very fluent in English, a lot more fluent in English than most Americans are in Cantonese or Chinese. But I think that if you go out to dinner with someone and you meet the person and you find out if you feel that the person is trustworthy, you visit the factory, you see what's happening in the factory, you make sure that they have potable water, you make sure that their dormitories are safe and clean and have the proper fire escapes, and you check a few of the different human resource cards or basically applications that people have to make sure that all of the people that are working there are compliant. I mean, obviously you can't do that with every single person at the factory, but you take random people and you grab a badge when you're walking through the factory and you ask to see the information for a particular individual. And most good factories will have that on file. In regards to, the relationships, I mean, I've had, numerous factory owners that I still speak with till today that I haven't worked with in probably 5 or 10 years. I think that the Chinese culture is one of, they like the partnership and they like long-term partnerships. They don't want the one nice order and done. They want something that it's going to last for years and build over time. And they look at every relationship as an opportunity for growth.
Have you ever had to fire someone, basically, that you've worked with?
We've had to fire factories in the past where we've had issues. We work with a lot of different independent testing agencies like Buena Veritas and SECO, Asian Inspection, and SGS, and a number of the different agencies that do a lot of our testing for us. A lot of times we'll have independent companies go in and perform audits on the factories before we even step foot in their factory. So if I'm working on a large project for something that I don't need until maybe January or February, I'll have a factory audit take place now, and then I'll do a surprise audit on the factory when I'm there in October, and then we might place the order at the same time. Well, when I get there in October, I'll already have the sample, I'll already have the proof, and I'll kind of show up at the factory and I'll work with the factory owners and basically possibly place the order while I'm over in October, so that way the goods deliver by the end of the year to hit my event date of January.
So one question, every Chinese company I meet in China asks me about tariffs and if we have any suggestions for them to go through this period of time here. How would you answer that?
So what we're doing, Doug, is actually we're doing it on both sides. So we're trying to make the factories aware of it, and at the same time, when I'm quoting something now that's going to be delivered after September 1st, because I think one of the first round of tariffs is supposed to go into effect after September 1st, we're actually putting on our quotes that we're sending out to a lot of our clients that, Chamberlain Marketing Group is, the quote that has been provided by Chamberlain Marketing Group dated, August 14th, is set based on the current and approved duties and taxes and tariffs that are placed upon the goods we import. If something happens that is out of Chamberlain Marketing Group's control, that the recipient would be responsible for paying those additional duties and tariffs.
Wow. Okay. And these are at the 25% level, I think. Is that?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, some are at 10%, some are at 25%. We just did about 150,000 piece hat order for one of our customers, and hats are one of the items in compliance. And what I basically did is I called the buyer up and I said, you know, hey Jordan, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's almost a $200,000 hat order. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with your company. However, I just want to make you aware of this. Before I send you an email that accepting your terms and conditions, I want to make you aware that I'm accepting the terms and conditions, you know, with one difference, and that is if the tariffs change and I have no control over what, you know, Donald Trump basically, you know, implements, that, you know, your company is going to be, you know, held responsible for that, because whether it's myself or any other importer you're dealing with, we're all going to be held responsible for the same new tariffs, and it'll be something that's across the board. So if you want your hats for a Black Friday promotion, then this is something that you're going to have to abide by.
Gotcha. Thank you, Abdelhak, for the question. And I think that brings us to the end. We've got, thank you very much, Robert, for taking the time to speak today. Really appreciate it. And if anyone wants to get a hold of you, we know how to reach you.
Yep, they can reach out to me anytime. I'd be happy to help. And if anyone's looking for anyone to help them out with their promotional items, I'd love to get a phone call.
Awesome. Very good. We know where to go to. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much for Robert, and as he mentioned, we know how to get a hold of him. And so again, if you hear anything today that you want to get more information on, just reach out. Our last speaker today is Vladi Cornetianu, and Vladi is based in LA. I believe you're calling in from LA at this point, or the Los Angeles area. He's been in the apparel industry since the mid-1980s, and in the early 1990s, he began visiting the Canton Fair. And so he has, similar to Todd, lots of experience in the apparel industry at the Canton Fair, and his happens to be in the apparel industry. And you've run businesses, you've helped others with businesses. So Vladi, your experience is really important for our viewers, and we look forward to hearing more. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. I will get to some of the questions posed to Todd. Todd was very eloquent on his Chinese background. Although I've been going to China for as longer, or maybe longer, but I didn't have the ability to stay there long enough in order to learn Chinese, to speak Chinese. I wish I did. My next life, maybe. But some of the questions that you pose to Todd, you can pose to me, as I may have some answers. With that, thank you so much for participating in this event, promoting the largest trade fair in China, the Canton Fair. China Import-Export Fair, also known as the Canton Fair, is held biannually in Guangzhou, southern China, with close proximity to Hong Kong, every spring and fall over 60 years. Today will take about an hour from Hong Kong to Guangzhou by the bullet train. The Canton Fair is a trade show with a long history, the highest level of organization on the largest scale. It is the most comprehensive exhibition in the world, with the broadest attendance of Chinese and overseas buyers. It attracts more than 25,000 of China's best factories. Furthermore, over 200,000 global buyers participate in the fair year after year. I started in the apparel industry almost 30 years ago, manufacturing exclusively in China. During my extensive travels throughout the country to source and produce apparel labels for my US clients, I discovered not only its incredible history, culture, and natural beauty, but the new face of China, developing China, the incredible business opportunities China, the friendly and accommodating China. Sourcing at major trade shows, both in the mainland and at the Hong Kong Fashion Week, greatly enhanced my ability to locate the best Chinese factories for my clients. My trade missions to China opened the door for companies without prior international experience to start businesses and prosper there. I constantly strive to develop relations and trade events for the benefit of US companies. Besides the trade missions to the Canton Fair, I developed and participated in other mega events in Guangzhou, like the Los Angeles mayoral delegation in 2018, celebrating the sister city tripartite agreement with the city of Guangzhou, as well as the Los Angeles Festival in the fall of 2017, held at the Grandview Mall, one of the largest shopping malls in China. The goal was to promote Los Angeles companies, its culture, sports, entertainment, and tourism. The 18 days festival was a huge success, and I would encourage other cities to organize similar events for the benefit of their business community. I can credit Canton Fair for my longevity in business and my success for all these years. The ability to source just about any product that a client would give me at one time or another and bringing quality products back to the US could not have been achieved without participating in this fair twice a year, year after year. There was no single time that I had a product requested by a client that I was not able to find at the Canton Fair. And I can tell you that at times I had some very difficult requests. Not only that I found those products, but I was able to compare quality, prices, minimums, and most importantly, the reliability of a particular factory. Even so, with all my experience, there were times when a factory would not perform. Under any other circumstance, one would have little recourse with the Chinese factory, unless that factory participated in the Canton Fair. Any issue, the Canton Fair's complaints department would take care of it, and at times factories were prohibited from future shows if they did not resolve the dispute with a foreign client. No Chinese factory is willing to lose the booth at the Canton Fair, thus resolution of a dispute is achieved. I can tell you this from personal experience, as I faced those situations in the past, and that's why I encourage anyone asking me about China sourcing in general to go to the Canton Fair. The management stands by the factories allowed into the fair and by the foreign buyers sourcing at the fair. Same goes for the businesses participating as exhibitors at the Canton Fair in their international pavilion. We work diligently with all exhibitors in choosing the right location for the products, facilitate meetings with Chinese distributors, buyers, and retailers. The Canton Fair has extensive media and social media coverage before, during, and after the fair, promoting the participating companies. Besides the International Pavilion, another venue for foreign design companies to showcase their products is the PDC area, Product and Development Center of the Canton Fair, and the Canton Fair Fashion Week fashion shows. Canton Fair Product Design and Trade Promotion Center, part of the Canton Fair, was launched in 2011, aiming to provide an efficient service platform for cooperation between overseas enterprises and Chinese manufacturers, as well as Chinese buyers. By organizing exhibitions, design forums, matchmaking meetings, fashion shows, promotional displays, as well as full booths for the participating foreign companies, PDC serves as a direct and efficient bridge between the foreign exhibitors and Chinese buyers, as well as overseas buyers. PDC is encouraging brands that would like to license their products in China to participate in their organized events. Categories include apparel, gifts, seasonal items, toys, luggage, sporting goods, and many more. The exposure of foreign brands participating in the International Pavilion or Fashion Week locations is huge, not only to the Chinese market, but to the international buyers coming from over 200 countries. Both of these international showcase opportunities take place during the first and third phase of the Canton Fair. Please look at the fair's website to see the categories exhibiting during those two phases. The major categories of products shown during the Canton Fair in general are as follows. Phase 1, April 15 to 19th, electrical and electronic products, technology, vehicles, building materials, and industrial products, plus the International Pavilion. Phase 2, April 23rd to 27, ornaments, toys, gifts, and furniture. Phase 3, May 1 to 5th, stationery, apparel, footwear, bags, food, and medicine, plus the International Pavilion. The International Pavilion set up during Phase 1 and 3 is reserved specifically for foreign enterprises that are looking to showcase and expand their business footprint in China. There is always talk about IP protection in China, and we all know that this is a very serious issue. Once again, the Canton Fair cracks down very hard on any factory or agent, big or small, that would bring fake merchandise to the fair or display licensed products without the approval of the foreign licensor. With that said, companies should have confidence when exhibiting at the fair or allowing factories to produce their private labels or brands. Of course, trademark registration is as good of an idea in China as it is in the US. My longtime consulting relations with the Canton Fair gave me the opportunity to work with their management and in particular with the Buyers Department and PDC Product and Development Center of the Canton Fair in developing their international markets, creating different programs at the fair targeting international buyers, organizing fashion shows and evening events, assisting buyers with matchmaking opportunities, following up with the registered buyers after the fair and informing them of future events are only a part of the efforts to make this mega trade show even better. On the other hand, we are facilitating international brands that want to open or expand their markets in China or into any other of the 200 or so countries that visit this fair with prime booth locations at greatly discounted prices, marketing tools, and matchmaking meetings with local and international buyers. Registration to the fair and hotel reservations can be easily done from the fair's website, but I can advise anyone or any group that needs more personal attention by offering free concierge registration, hotel reservations, and most importantly, guidance in China during the fair. For more details on the Canton Fair or China import fair that will take place in Shanghai in November, immediately following the Fall Canton Fair, please visit their websites or by contacting me. I'm open now for questions, and if anyone wants to email me later on with other questions, Doug has my email and can forward it to anybody looking for it. Thank you.
Really, really good conversation, really good information. You mentioned about the concierge registration. Could you talk a little bit more about what that means? Are you saying that people going to the fair does everybody have access to that?
No. If you are an individual and you want to go to the Canton Fair, you go to their website, and although it's not that simple, but you can register on the website. Some people run into an issue registering online. But when I take groups of 15, 20 people to the Canton Fair, I provide the information, passport, pictures to the Canton Fair Buyers Department, and they issue all the badges. So the badges are ready when the group arrives in China. And that's the easiest way.
Okay, so you have special access, if you will. So
yes. Oh, absolutely. I do that all the time, and they provide me all the badges in an instant, no issue. Hotels, again, are very easily found on the Canton Fair website. They range from, obviously during the fair, they are more expensive than other times. They can range from, I would say, $100 a night to $600 a night, depending where you stay. If one would stay at the Westin, that it's obviously the most convenient and the most luxurious there, connected to the Canton Fair, that can range from $300 to $600 a night, depending on the phase. but there are many other hotels within walking distance.
Okay, that's great news. You mentioned about trademark registration. It sounds like, have you made use of that? Have you actually registered trademark there, and how easy or difficult?
Yes, trademark it's as simple as it's in the U.S. You just need a local lawyer that it's can be I can recommend, or the U.S. consulate can recommend, the U.S. economic mission in Guangzhou. That's very simple, and it's as expensive or inexpensive as would be here, about $800-900, $1,000 to register a trademark.
Gotcha. Are there other things like that visitors should be thinking about? Like, for instance, if they go over, like we were talking with Todd, and they go to a plant out in the countryside, are there visas or special permits or special permission that's required to be able to do that?
No, China changed, as Todd knows, tremendously from the 80s, or I would say from the 80s, when traveling throughout China was extremely difficult. Today, it's as easy or easier than traveling in the US, because besides a million flights a day from anywhere to anywhere, you have the bullet trains that can take you practically across country from Guangzhou to Beijing in 8 hours, which is crazy, because to fly will take you 3 hours and 15 minutes to fly. By the time you go to the airport, and from the airport, you are at 6 hours. So a train, it's very easy to go to factories. Now, the necessity to go to factories, yes, Todd is correct. Although it's not as clear-cut and as easy to visit the factories, especially for a first-time buyer. China is overwhelming. Canton Fair is overwhelming when you go the first time. And basically, my recommendations to the people that they want to produce in China for the first time, and they have zero experience in manufacturing, forget the importing and duty issues, just strictly manufacturing, to visit the Canton Fair, talk to as many factories as humanly possible, and get a general idea of prices, qualities, sample making with different factories. And then it's a gut feeling after you talk to so many people which factory you should work with if you are as a first-time buyer. Unless I happen to be in China and I have a better understanding of different factories, or if Todd is in China, we'll have a better understanding. And he was correct on the factory versus trading company or agent. Very difficult, and I've been asking the Canton Fair to design the badges of the exhibitors to showcase if they are factories or if they are agents. They are reluctant to do that because most of the trade companies or agents, they will say, yes, we are factory. And they can take you even on a visit to the factory, and you think that, yes, they are management, or a first-time buyer will never know unless you have that keen eye to understand. If you drive to the factory and the guard is asking the driver for his name, well, you know he's not, or the agent, you know he's not the owner of the factory. So, or if the dog does not recognize the guy coming to visit. So it's, there are tricks that you learn when visiting factories. Of course, it's ideally to meet the owners. Is not always possible. Sometimes, factories are too big, and, you can never get to the owner unless you have, I don't know, $20 million worth of orders. But there are many, many smaller factories that would perform as well. And in general, the owners are at the Canton Fair. But sure, factory visits are very important.
We have a question from the audience.
Yeah.
Is it Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan.
Ryan is a second-time questioner.
All right, so I just have
All
a
right.
question.
Yes.
For answering the questions, I have a question on like contracts. Are they in English? Any recommendations you have on things to watch out for with contracts over there?
You're talking about purchasing contracts. If you go there and you find a factory that is able to produce whatever you want to produce, of course, the contracts are in English.
Okay.
So they will send you the contract in English. There is a negotiation technique on how the payments are made, because that's very important. Most of the factories will require a down payment. First of all, if you produce your own goods, not buying something existing, and you have to make samples, you have to have a clear understanding of the cost of the samples. Sometimes they charge, sometimes they don't charge. And then the actual productions. In general, the Chinese factories, they want 30% down before the production is placed. And then when the production is done, the other 70% in order for them to put it on the boat and issue the bill of lading.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, the contracts are in English. The terms have to be very clear, because again, if you go to a dispute on any matter, you have to have documentation, money transfers, the contract, the samples produced. If there is something wrong, yes, the Canton Fair will take care of it, but you have to have proper documentation. And
what about like, are there any problems with once you purchase something from the point that it's not the correct product when it shows up?
Well, you shouldn't make a product that you have no idea what it is before it arrives here. So again, experience comes into play. I'll just give you a very quick example how I do samples with a new factory, because many factories, I've been working with them for many, many years, and I don't need samples. But a new factory, I would give them my samples or design. So they have to make just what do you call a fit sample. It doesn't matter if it's apparel or gifts or a brick. So they just make it for you. They ship it to the US. Obviously, you're going to pay for it. If that initial sample is good, then you go to production. Now, they have to make you pre-production sample, okay? Which means, again, make the original sample that they send you, but with the actual materials that the production is going to be in. So they send you that sample. If that's approved, then you go to full production. Now, full production is done. Then I tell my factories, okay, I have 100 boxes. I want you to pull a sample from box 1, 5, 15, 25, 55. In this size, that size, that size, that size, send it to me. If nothing is wrong, then the likelihood that anything else is wrong with the production is remote. Even so, if there are, let's say, out of 10,000 pieces, 20 defective, they give you credit on the next production. So there are ways of doing it without you being actually there. But again, like Todd mentioned before, you have companies that you can hire to do the inspection of the factory at different phases of the production.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Great information. Vladi, thank you for your time. Todd, thank you. Robert, thank you. And as we mentioned, getting a hold of any of these folks is very doable and possible, and we're happy to take a call or your email at info@globalchamber.org. We come to the end of this event, and if you're thinking about going to phase 1, 2, or 3 of the Spring Canton Fair from the 15th of April through the 5th of May, contact us as well. We're working on trade missions to both spring and the fall. And so we can share others that are going and share the fun and the excitement and the challenges and all the things that you guys talked about today. So thank you very much.
It's an amazing fair. It's an amazing fair. It's a must see, must go. Absolutely amazing fair.
Fantastic. Todd, do you want to leave the last word? Without, you'll need.
I had myself muted. No, I agree. Vladdy shared a lot of great stuff, some good details and how to get things done. Relationship really is an important aspect. If you have somebody who speaks the language, who understands you, understands your culture and background, and understands China, that'll open up some opportunities that may be a little bit different from just going in, not having that. So that's my experience. Going over there and speaking to them like I'm one of them, it really does make a difference in getting things done.
It's very clear, and I sure loved watching your LinkedIn posts and your Facebook posts at your last visit to the Canton Fair because of the variety of people that you met and also the integration that you got in with both the people and the culture. So, and we can tell Vladdy you're the same way. So thank you both, and that's the end of our program. We appreciate you watching. Have a great day and a great night wherever you're calling in from. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.